Welcome to the Tucson Bitcoin podcast. My name is Alex, and I'm pretty stoked on today's episode. So I've got Ben and Edward from Alpha BTC on to discuss the conference that they're putting on September 10th in Omaha, Nebraska, that I'll be speaking at, and we had a good time. We had a really good time. I'm stoked about this conference. I'm stoked about Bitcoin in the Midwest. There's not a ton of energy that I've heard coming out from there, but there is a meetup scene in Omaha. There's a meetup scene, growing, kind of spread out across the Midwest, and I think that's huge. It's something I'm super bullish on, is Bitcoin coming to smaller communities, and that's why we launched the meetup in Sierra Vista, Arizona, which is a town of about 100,000 people, and it only really exists because there's a military base out there and some defense contractors. And it was a dope meetup. We had our first meetup this past Saturday, and it was just an awesome conversation. Those guys are hardcore, they're badass, they're fed up, and they're ready to do some good stuff, and the energy was just incredible. But yeah, we talked about in this conversation about the conference, and how it's kind of a response to Berkshire Hathaway and their meeting, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, their meeting that they have in Omaha. Like, this is gonna be kind of a rejection of that, and a celebration of this new parallel financial system that we're building, in a better form of money that we're rolling out. And I'm stoked. I'm super stoked. Brian Harrington, Stephen Cole, who are both good friends of mine, are going to be there. It's going to be good hanging out with them. I'm excited to meet Ben in person. Him and I have been, talking online quite a bit over the past year, hanging out, and I think it would be super dope to meet him. But I think it's going to be a pretty sick conference, and I think this kind of fits into this attitude of localism that I'm really coming around to, where we organize grassroots. We get out of this political coma of being so infatuated with the federal government, and we just start focusing on our local communities. And I think that's super dope. That's what I want to be a part of, that type of energy, bringing Bitcoin into our local communities to empower individuals and to reject the broken monetary system. So anyways, I hope you enjoy this conversation. Well, welcome to the podcast, guys. Really stoked to have you on.
Hey, howdy.
So, you're counting down the days. I think we're about 20 days out to Bitcoin Omaha, and I'm really, really stoked. I was looking at the speakers. Some of my favorite people there are going to be there. I'm really excited. But yeah, how are you guys feeling about it?
Feeling good, excited. Just excited to bring some Bitcoiners to the Midwest and get some people together. I think it's going to be sweet.
Nice. I got my dog barking in the background, so I'm going to try and mute her out when I'm not talking. But yeah, so Edward, this is kind of your vision. What's your vision for Bitcoin Day? I know you're looking at doing this some other places.
Yeah, we've had every once in a while, like Jameson Locke came out to Lincoln, Nebraska, actually in 2018, I think it was. So we've had people come in on occasion from out of town for different events. We ran a fintech conference a few years back as well, and had some industry folks there to talk. That was we had Eric Voorhees there, but we haven't had like such a consolidated, all these personalities, all these influencers that are coming for September 10th in Omaha. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be the biggest thing for Bitcoin in Omaha that's ever happened, really, because certainly right now is the time to do it. It's the price is right. Biggest Bitcoin conference in Nebraska. Yep, number one. Yep. So we've certainly done it in past smaller scales, but this time we got a great lineup. Ben and Lauren Sigmund have really helped out and getting speakers and sponsors, and so it's a really good lineup, and we're really excited.
Yeah,
you're going to be speaking too.
Yeah, I'm speaking. I'm super stoked on it.
Yeah. But this is so Bitcoin Day. For those who don't know, the Bitcoin Day came from not frustration, but Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway having their weekend every year in Omaha, and so I figured that they need some competition. So we wanted to, if they're bringing a bunch of folks who are interested in dumping money into assets, I figure they should dump money into Bitcoin, and Warren's not going to lead the way on that by any means, and so that's where we come in. So the goal is to have an event that rivals Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting, and draw some of that crowd over to help enlighten them on decentralization.
Yeah, that's dope. I don't know how successful will be at enlightening Warren Buffett.
No. He's a lost cause.
Yeah, his entire success is predicated on the ability to print money. That's something he really enjoys doing.
He's gonna give it all away to Bill Gates before he dies. So. That's centralization right there.
Is that really his plan?
Yeah, I was just reading about that the other day. He's giving away 99% of his wealth is going to the Gates Foundation.
That's so disgusting. I have a very strong dislike for Mr. Bill Gates.
Yeah. So yeah, I've got that lined up for social media at some point to point that out. All those you start to talk about, obviously he's very vocal. Actually, that was part of what it was when we kicked off the idea, was him when he started getting vocal about it. That was when I kind of decided we need to push back and make something happen. And so that was in 2008. We did one in 2015. In 2018, we were going to do one at the Marriott Hotel, which was right across the street from where all the festivities were happening for Berkshire Hathaway weekend. And then pretty much had everything lined up. About a month before we were supposed to do the event, Marriott called us and they said, "We're sorry, we can't host you. This isn't going to be the venue for you." And so I said, "Well, why?" And they wouldn't really give me a reason. They just said, "Yeah, we just can't do it." And so thankfully we hadn't made a deposit. We weren't out money. They weren't trying to hold our money from us or anything like that. They just said we can't host. And so I went that weekend. So it's Berkshire Hathaway weekend. All the stuff was going on at Borsheims, and we were right across the street at Marriott, supposed to be. And I walked through the halls and walked through the conference rooms where we were supposed to rent. We had agreement on that, and so they were empty. Nothing was going on at Marriott that day, and so I think somebody had picked up the phone after we got some publicity about what we were trying to do, and I think somebody maybe from Mr. Buffett's office had picked up the phone and said, we don't want this to go on. So
yeah,
I have no way of confirming that, just my suspicion. So that's the goal. The goal is to not have it there, because I don't want to do business with them anymore, but have it very close to Berkshire Hathaway weekend going forward, next year. So
yeah, I think it would be super dope. So I guess Warren Buffett gets McDonald's every morning for breakfast. And what would be super dope is if McDonald's started accepting Bitcoin, and it's just right there in his face every morning when he gets his egg sandwich or whatever it is.
Yeah. I ran into him once in a restaurant. I just said hi, and he was too busy. He was talking to other people, but I've met him kind of once. So yeah.
Yeah, in 2018 when I started getting into Bitcoin, I watched a lot of his stuff, and was really fascinated with his investment style. And I think it's, to a certain degree, it's pretty good. This idea of long-term thinking and investing, of buying and holding rather than trying to trade. I think that's a really good message, but I think things are shifting a lot away from this idea of having to get yield. And we have a form of money today that we can store our wealth in, rather than having to go and speculate on all sorts of, assets. I just like look back at before Bitcoin is like, what is, a 20-year-old kid have any business doing investing in these companies? And why is it that way? I don't think a lot of people think about it, but it's kind of a strange concept that you can't just put your value in your money and hold it over a period of time, and we're forced to do these things.
Yeah, pretty much we're pretty much just using his style of investing, but just moving it to sats. And I think it's the long term play to just stay on and stack sats. So that's what we're going to continue to do.
And it's taught me a lot about low time preference. And Joel from Untapped Growth, he's going to be talking about that too. And so for sure, that's the way to go with Bitcoin.
And Bitcoin's kind of just, to me, it's incentivized the just zooming out and looking at kind of the larger scale of things, of kind of where we're at in the next 10 to 15 years. And a lot of the speakers, yourself included, that's kind of going to be our focus. Is we're planning for the long term here. Like you said, quality over quantity, and we're building for the future and not just for tomorrow.
Yeah, 100%. My dream is to have a day where we don't have Black Friday shopping anymore.
What's the alternative, or how do you see it? Like every day is Black Friday. Like what would you?
Less consumerism, or there you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at Black Friday, so like Thanksgiving, typically one of my favorite holidays, because it's about spending time with your family, and appreciating things. It's something I think is important, and people forego that to go swipe credit cards to buy, crap, just absolute garbage. Like, I mean, you just see it every time that they're going bananas over flat screen TVs. And it's like that provides no value to you in your life. And the typical person that's doing that is not, in a position where they can really afford to have that mindset of going and spending, money on credit to buy this stuff. Like they should be, focusing on saving, on building generating some sort of wealth to, create more stability for their future. And the reason why they do that is because they're incentivized to, and they're punished to behave in a way that it isn't behaving like that. And so I think like the alternative looks like people sitting at home with their families, enjoying their time, and thinking about the long-term future, instead of like that stuff becomes, when you have hard money, that stuff becomes completely irrelevant, where people are more focused on, like, you can still have nice things in a hard money standard. I think people just kind of pick and choose where they put it, because they're incentivized to save, they're incentivized to think long term, and they're incentivized to like really build out a strong future, to focus on things like building generational wealth, because that's where the incentives lie. And
that is crazy though about the Thanksgiving thing, how it's complete. You're supposed to be thankful, but it just turns into complete consumerism in the next 8 hours, and the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's absolutely awful. I spent a Thanksgiving with a friend's family in Yuma, and they have a very awesome low time preference. They're pretty hardcore. They homeschooled all their kids, and we had to go to Walmart because we were fixing their car, like changing out the struts on their car, and they didn't have them at AutoZone. And just seeing everybody's behavior, it was just bananas. That Friday night, like it was. I tend to try and avoid that at all costs, but yeah, I mean, there are people in our society that are like that, but it's very against the grain and unusual. And I think people look at people with low time preference with kind of a either confusion or disdain, even. So
we're actually right now we're in Kansas City for planning on we talked to you actually earlier about like having the next or what the plan is for Bitcoin Day. So we're we're in Kansas City right now, checking out the next one, and then at some point we'll be announcing and planning the one after that. So the goal is to have next year booked up with different cities over the next year, and I think we've got quite a few already in the works, or at least ideas of where we want to go. So we'll be announcing those as time goes on. So
yeah, that's so bullish.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, well, they will hopefully become easier, right, as we get some of the systems in place, as people see what we're doing, and as more people, and then obviously as the price goes up, right, I think there will be people that are more will want to come, and then right now we're expecting like 150 max. Maybe we'll have to expand that in the future if things really do pick up. So we're getting some really, like I said, we're getting some really good, a lot of interest from the speakers, a lot of interest from the sponsors, and then after that, it's just a matter of getting the word out. So.
Yeah, I don't think I've looked at the sponsors yet.
So there might be a couple that just need to be added still. I've got some agreements out or just sitting in my inbox, and we so I'll tell you a little. So we're in Kansas City right now. We haven't really announced that Kansas City's happening, but that's November 6th. We're going to be at Union Station. So this is like the exclusive announcement. So
Paris of the Plains is what Kansas City is. So trying to bring it's just another Midwest place that has a lot of attention, and we're trying to help build a community here.
But Paris of the Plains is what it used to be called, right? That's a real name, not just you calling it that. That was a nickname back in like the 1800s or something.
The early 1900s.
Early 1900s. All right. Paris of the Plains. So Union Station is like a big train station, kind of like Grand Central. Probably not that big, but so yeah, it's going to be a sweet venue. So that's Kansas City, November 6th, and we'll obviously be launching the website and getting the ticket sales online, and that link out for people to sign up for if they're in the Kansas City area. But in Omaha, there's a little bit of a backstory because last year basically is when it all kind of started. But last year, the legislature started looking at a bill that was proposed by a senator in Nebraska, from Norfolk, Nebraska, called Mike Flood. And Mike Flood proposed a bill where banks could essentially custody Bitcoin or digital assets, and they could hold that just like they hold dollars. And so that was obviously pretty, I mean, they basically modeled and followed after Wyoming's legislature. So Nebraska is basically the second state that allows banks to hold cryptocurrency. So that was really exciting. That got pushed through. There was a really strong vote in the legislature for that. And so part of the reason they did that was there's a company called Telcoin that the founder is from Nebraska, or at least he went to college in Nebraska, and he wanted to move back to Nebraska, or at least move the company back to Nebraska. And so Mike Flood and Mark Quandall, that team basically got that bill passed in the legislature. So we're one of two states. I think there was talk about Texas maybe doing the same thing. So maybe three states now where banks can hold Bitcoin on their books. So that's exciting. And so Telcoin is the sponsor that's not on the website that we'll be adding here shortly. And so and then also Exodus, they're on there. And that's we're excited to have them as sponsors. JP and James and the gang, they've been great supporters throughout the years. So, yeah. And then the other one, we got the Mark Quanda's law firm, the Dvorak Law, and then we've got who else is getting added? Well, I can't say some of them yet, but yeah, we'll be adding some more shortly here.
That's awesome. I mean, that's something that's been for our meetup specifically has been really helpful, is having companies kind of wrap around us and help support us. So some that have been really helpful: Bit Refill, Fold, Samurai, and gosh, I'm forgetting one. is so bad.
It's all good.
But yeah, I mean, there's something about Bitcoin companies where they really see the value of people getting together and talking about this, and that they're Bitcoiners actually working in the companies. And I mean, it's amazing to see this kind of organic growth. I think this is like one of the most effective ways to spread out into these communities, is to create this energy, because what we're doing is we're in essentially we're revolting against this awful monetary system that is punishing everybody, and having that energy, I think, is good.
Yeah, and back in Revolutionary War, right? They gathered in churches and bars, and yeah.
The revolutionaries meet at the cupcake shop in Omaha. They're coming through. So
yeah, shout out to Jones Brothers Cupcakes in Omaha. They're going to be catering the event, and on September 10th, and we're gonna have a happy hour. California is actually sponsoring the happy hour afterwards. But yeah, Jones Bros has been awesome. That's where you can buy your Bitcoin at the kiosk. That was the first one in Omaha, so we put that back in 2015. They're pretty into it. So they saw the vision, and they were willing to let us put that first kiosk there in Nebraska. So they've been around for a while.
I think the community aspect of Bitcoin is kind of different than just every other lot of different communities. It's just like you said, it's really from the ground up, and there's hardcore Bitcoiners in these companies, and then it kind of branches off of there. And again, the quality over quantity. We'd rather grow with people that are with the mission versus people that are trying to buy some other altcoins.
Yeah, the other company that I forgot was Lolly, by the way.
They're one of the, I haven't even tried to reach out to them. Yeah, they're one of their founders is from Nebraska, actually.
Okay.
But yeah, and we don't, Bitcoin Day, right? It's if we go tour the country, right? If we're going to Tulsa, if we're going to Boston, if we're going to Minneapolis, we're probably going to get there. That size city, we're probably going to get there like every other year, every third year, and so I see it as like I don't see it as a meetup necessarily. It's almost like a hybrid between a conference and a meetup, and so it's a chance to giving away prizes and stuff like that. Like most meetups aren't giving away nodes and sats and as much free Bitcoin as we probably are, and so. But it's also a chance to really get some of that, to draw in some of the people that aren't going to the meetup, and so it's feeding people into the meetup. That's the goal, is that we're making those connections, so that people don't necessarily hold any maybe, but are buying it for the first time or just want to get more familiar with it. Bitcoin Day will hopefully lead to having people show up at the meetups, and then hopefully the meetups will grow. Yeah.
And it kind of allows some of those companies and sponsors to kind of get to help build the community around them, and would love to be able to have some Bitcoin focused products come out of these meetups. I think that would be sweet.
Yeah, and we frequently get asked, hey, I've got how do I build X, or I want to build something, how do I do that? Hopefully we'll be able to make those connections. I know at previous events we posted, there have been real life events or real life products that have come out of those connections. So that networking, usually after the event, when you're doing surveys or asking people what they thought about it and getting feedback to improve, that's usually the number one thing, is that the networking and connections.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think that's like having this grassroots attitude with Bitcoin is so important, because people know their communities and are well equipped to go into them, and serve their needs.
Yep. What do they, have you gotten, so the companies you mentioned, are they like buying you guys beers at your meetups, or what's typical engagement?
Yeah, they help sponsor, like sometimes they'll buy us beers, but they help sponsor like renting meetup space, and that's probably the biggest one that we've used right now. But yeah, there's been a handful of times that they've covered food and beer costs, which is pretty helpful. It's just awesome to get their support, you know. I think, and it's awesome to be able to like shill these companies that are really solid too.
For sure.
Because like there's a lot. I mean, you see this in the influencer community a lot, like where they shill all sorts of like weird, dumb products. Like you'll be watching. They might not be bad, but they're products that I think are that we get to shell at our meetups that are like actually revolutionary and are really changing things. Like I love Fold. I'm not paid by them in any capacity, but I try to shill them as much as possible because I think it's huge. It takes savings to like a new level where people don't have to put up any capital, you know, to start earning and saving in Bitcoin. And I think that's a massive game changer, you know, and products like that are so cool.
I feel like I know a couple people that have, you know, acquired almost 1 million sats just from a spin on the wheel or, you know, being a part of Lolly, which is crazy when you think about kind of the future. You know, it's a great way to kind of get people involved or dip their toes in to kind of get used to the SAT community and what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah, they're launching this new product where you're going to be able to drop sats wherever you want, anywhere in the world. And then it's like Pokemon Go, and so you can go and like look for them.
That's cool.
That's crazy.
So I'll be dropping some sats on the event for sure.
Very cool. How's that? So is it? I mean, I used to play some of those games back in the day, right? There's a map, I assume, so it's almost like a scavenger hunt, like on a global level. Yeah. Never played Pokemon Go. That's not my thing.
I think I downloaded it for like a day. It's like, all right.
Yeah, it's not my thing either. I played Pokemon a little bit as a kid, but
if I'm gonna get stats for it, right, I might be involved a little bit.
That is a really cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super cool because Will announced it at the Kaiser event, and one of the things he was talking about is like you can drop it anywhere in the world. So we could be dropping sats on El Salvador, you know, or Nigeria. I don't know how it's going to work if they're going to need Fold to be able to use it, which is kind of limited right now because it's only U.S. based customers, or if they're going to, like I know they're going to be launching a native wallet, and I think I don't know. Well, we'll see how it goes, but it'd be cool if that like augmented reality was kind of, you know, an open system that other people can interact with outside of Fold too. But yeah, we'll see. It's a big project. It's kind of.
I've thought about like, what if we, at some point when we get big enough, like even just covering the cost of like the meetups, right? Like the whatever it is a year, it's like $60 a year. I don't know what the current cost is, but like kind of being that go-to sponsor that people could rely on if they wanted to start a meetup, like we would get them kind of off the ground. I think that's considered an important role.
Yeah, it does. It does 100%. I think like one of the biggest struggles for meetups starting up is just getting exposure and getting out there, because I was never on Meetup before I started one. And so the marketing of it, and just like there's so many Bitcoiners in our area that are hard to reach because people are all over the place. But yeah.
I mean, if you don't come in every, you know, if you're 2 hours out of town or whatever, right, you might not come into the meetup every other week, but hopefully you'll come in once a year or whatever, every other year for Bitcoin Day, and at least connect, and maybe hopefully come back and, you know, get more connected and hopefully stay more connected that way. We were talking about like Ben's sister, you know, she designed the map the other day, didn't she? So, and then I guess Swan has put together a directory or something like that of meetups. And so hopefully that will help some of that lost marketing to be able to get that word out.
I mean, everything, like you said, everything in the community is just from the ground up. So that's a good way. I think it's going to be the best way to go, just long term. It's just obviously from the ground up, and we are the marketing team for Bitcoin. You know, it's you, it's us, it's anyone involved, and that's I think that's just going to be the best way to go long term.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty powerful that we have a message like this that we get to spread, and then to watch like live, like real time life changes as a result of it. Like I have a buddy, he's got like 4 kids, and barely scrapes by, doing like manual labor as well as like Postmates, and he stacked like $150 worth of Bitcoin, which is pretty huge. And I got to like sit down with him and teach him how to set up a wallet and how to back it up and how to transfer his Bitcoin off the exchange, and to like see that that stuff like gets me super stoked.
Yeah, I think getting people involved and just like sending a transaction. Like I had a couple buddies like that it kind of doesn't even seem real because they never even sent it from away from Coinbase or something. And so anything we can do to kind of simplify it and like break down the steps and show people that it's actually accessible and real and it works. Yeah, I mean, kind of what you're saying. To be honest, I think Bitcoin is absolutely mind blowing that we're alive during this time and that it's even a real thing and that it works and it's digitally scarce and it's verifiable and it's just it kind of blows my mind every time I think about it. To be honest, so just super grateful and excited that we get to meet people like yourself and all the other Bitcoiners. It's just it's a good time to be alive. Super grateful for it.
Yeah, I think that message is something that's incredibly important to promote, is this idea of optimism, because people are just so demoralized right now.
It's crazy.
And
yeah, I bite my tongue, not make it political. Yeah.
I feel like Bitcoin's just. I feel like I was a little bit of an optimist before Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin just kind of having that base layer of like stability just kind of allows you to kind of move forward even further. And maybe Kaiser gets wild and crazy, but you can see that it comes from a place of confidence and a place of when we fall back on the base foundation of Bitcoin, it's something stable that we can stand on and a stable foundation that allows us to move forward off of that. And outside of that, not a lot of people really have that. And so to have something that can potentially NGU technology, just it makes for a more optimistic worldview. And I mean, geez, like just the fact that we can save, like we should just be able to save money and get ahead. But I don't know who was one of the politicians saying, like Bitcoin, you don't need Bitcoin or something. And it's like, dude, we really wouldn't need it if the system wasn't messed up. But we're trying to get away from your system. So yes, we do need it. Bitcoin separating money and state, and the specific separation of the state from the Cantillon money spigot, the control of money printing is crucial. And that's like the macro play here of the next 10 to 15 years. And that's just giga optimistic, Super Bowl optimistic, whatever with Bitcoin. So it's great.
100%. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin satisfies like one of the most basic needs that humans have, which is security. And one of the things a lot of people are struggling with is they just have no security whatsoever. So like there's this huge almost like civil war brewing in Tucson because of some mandates that the city is placing on their employees that a bunch of people don't want to comply with, and they're looking at leaving, and quitting, and they're having no idea how they're going to survive. Like, they're talking about like selling their houses or living in a van, as a result to survive. And like, it's because they don't have any savings. And, Bitcoin fixes that. Even, without the number constantly appreciating over time, that's huge. But even, as a money that's just not being debased, that's a big difference for people. And I kind of look at them and, just like you're so close. But we have the ability to build economic power, and have a voice and like step out of being wage slaves, and completely dependent on the government and our employers. And that's just groundbreaking, I think.
It's revolutionary, bro. It's literally revolutionary. And again, I just keep going back to the macro thing. I feel like day to day it can be tough to kind of realize that, but like it just sets the foundation for the long term. Which, like you said, I feel like people are kind of close though. They see the issues and they are upset, but their outlet for the execution on how to have a solution just kind of falls short. And that's where Bitcoin fixes this.
Yeah. It's a pretty freeing feeling to be able to go to work, say whatever you want without fear of getting fired. And if you do get fired, to know that you can just go sit in your kitchen doing whatever you want for like a year without any financial hardship.
That's true. Yeah. We were talking to some folks earlier, and they were one had recently quit his job because he could. Yeah. But you see, on the other side, there's folks like Stephen Cole, right? He's a VC now, probably in large part because he got it early, and now he's able to help and support the community in that way by, obviously he gets a stake, I'm sure, or whatever. But that's the positive side. It took him, the days were probably long and sucky when the price was down, right? But long term, it paid off, thankfully. So.
Yeah, Steven's a good mentor to me. He's definitely like a guy I look up to, and we're so lucky to have him in Arizona.
Was he in California back in the day? Because he worked when he was working for some of those companies.
Yeah, he started out in like Silicon Valley doing that stuff, and then he got orange pilled at some point, and now he fled the Communist Republic of California.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like the parallels of the folks leaving. We talked about how the Midwest is growing and how we might the meetups might grow because of the folks fleeing the coast that are moving to the Midwest for all the benefits. And I think the parallels of people leaving California and moving to Texas or moving wherever. It's probably the parallels are there between that and like the fiat economy as well.
Yeah, there's some really solid like Brian's in California. I think like there's a lot of I don't know what to say, but it.
Well, New York, there's people in these people like still there, but certainly it's not like not everybody's, but there's reasons to stay and obviously affect change and try to spread the good word. Still, you can't have everybody abandoning it. Not, I'm thinking like John Galt, right? Like Ayn Rand, and somebody's got to go back and get the people that should be out of this system. So,
yeah, there's definitely something to say about people that are willing to stay in a crazy totalitarian place to fight, for their people. There's a guy I really like called Friedrich Bonhoeffer who went back to Nazi Germany. He initially, left for the UK and then went back, and then he ended up dying in a Nazi concentration camp. But he kind of went through that, and I think there's something powerful about that. But then again, like there's something to leaving for places that hate you less. They're a little bit freer.
I was listening to a podcast, and Sydney Watson was talking about her family's still in Australia and like all the craziness going on in Australia, and they just won't leave, and so she was, that's got to be tough, I guess. But I mean, Bitcoin, right, can travel across borders and travels internationally. So certainly Bitcoin empowers us to get out of those systems.
Yeah. I think that's huge. That's just such a big deal that people don't realize. Like, you can't take your entire stock portfolio with you.
I mean, there's laws, right? You have to report everything or pay taxes or sell it and reinvest or whatever. So the Bitcoin is not doesn't have any of those mandates or requirements or restrictions in the purest sense. So,
and even if it did, it wouldn't matter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, they can pass all the infrastructure bills they want. Like, keep passing them. Yeah.
That's why Ben's got his bisque shirt on. Is that the one that says KYC is the illicit activity on the back?
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting quite a few looks down in the Paris of the Plains here. People are like, what's going on? I mean, at least I feel like I thought it would stand out, and then I feel like I realized a lot of people don't even know what KYC is or means. But hopefully, they see the shirt and Google what KYC is, and then realize it's a pretty strong stance to have. It's important.
It's funny because we talked like even folks in, you've got the traditional finance folks who are, in the BlackRocks or in the Wells Fargos, and then you've got there's fintech, right, which is supposed to kind of disrupt and has been disrupting. But even when you talk to fintech folks and you tell them that you're in crypto or Bitcoin, they even are like, I'd rather be over there than in my fintech, right? I'd be rather in that space and in that world because that is true freedom. So yeah, it's just funny that as much as fintech was supposed to disrupt, there's an even further disruption coming.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be as big as like fire, electricity, I think, in its disruptive nature.
Well, that's what Eric thinks. That's what his the seventh property. I mean, that's kind of the premise. Part of the premise was that like Bitcoin builds upon all of those other, a lot of the other inventions that money revolved around, like money and stuff like that.
Yeah. If anybody asks you what KYC is, just ask them if they're a customer of T-Mobile.
Why?
There was this huge hack recently.
Oh, I know what you. Never mind. I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually I didn't get anywhere, but like I made some calls to my provider and be like, how do I know you're not gonna just fail me? Like, how do I know you're not gonna just totally?
You gotta trust them.
They had no clue. I mean, I tried to work my way up, like talking to higher levels of support and even some of the on the admin office side of folks, and they just didn't care. It was so frustrating.
Yeah, I think like the inevitability is like all of these companies are susceptible and probably will be hacked, and that's why centralizing data in these giant honeypots and centralizing financial assets in these giant honeypots is so problematic. And it's
I was talking to somebody yesterday. I mean, that's obviously one of the biggest arguments is like you see all the hacks and all the news, right? And they're like, I said, what are you buying exactly? Was their question, and talking about like the network effect, the trust. Like there's no one person, no one entity that you have to trust when you're buying Bitcoin, and compared to all these other, Bitcoin has run, solid for 12 years, and versus all the other guys that are almost inevitably somebody's gonna get in and get your data there. So it's like people don't get it because there's no it's not Wells Fargo. There's no main office for Bitcoin. They just can't wrap their head around it.
Yeah.
There's no customer helpline. You can't call 1-800 Bitcoin.
Yeah, when people ask me about altcoins, probably the biggest concern I have and talk to them about right off the bat is just the security of them. And Eric Voorhees is out there trying to do all of these things like create decentralized autonomous organizations and have decentralized exchanges like Thorchain. And we saw Thorchain get wrecked recently, and that's what kind of inevitably happens with these tokens, if they're not decentralized. And Bitcoin, fortunately, has taken a very different route of prioritizing security above all else on the base layer, and it's definitely a very different perspective that people have because they want to rush off and do all these things, like build all these applications and stuff. And explain to them what we have right now is like the house is on fire, the money is broken, and it's destroying our society, it's destroying our communities, and making it impossible for people to really live with stability. And these altcoins are talking about remodeling the kitchen while the house is on fire. It's like, no, you need to get out of the house because it's burning down and build a new one, and then you can start talking about remodeling the kitchen or how you want to design it.
That's right. I feel like when people ask me, I kind of say the same thing. They ask about the alts. I'm like, oh, it does all these great applications. I'm like, okay, that's great, but we need to get the base foundation layer of the money correct. Otherwise, everything we're building is just built on quicksand and not that stable rock foundation, which is just crucial if we're going to do anything in society long term.
Yeah. Like, do you want to put your money into something that's going to be stable and secure, or do you want to put your money into something that's going to be incredibly risky and insecure?
So. There's a lot of, you talk about building upon the rock. Like, there's a lot of, and we were talking earlier about like, save money, take care of your family, right? Like, as compared to the usury and the debt-based system we have now, right? You can't truly take care of your family. Unless you are inheriting millions of dollars or whatever, those exceptions. But I think there's a lot of like biblical and religious undertones there that I know, there's quite a bit of, I know like Jimmy Song, Thank God for Bitcoin, Brian, yeah. There's a lot of talk, or those smaller segments of the Bitcoin industry are talking about some of that stuff. So Brian Harrington is going to be at the conference, but we had a call with Jimmy the other day, and I know he's been very instrumental in trying to make that bridge that gap between what does it mean to be human? Like, what are we supposed to be doing as humans, and what were we designed to do as humans? And then how does Bitcoin fit into that?
Yeah, what do you think our design as humans is? What are we supposed to be doing?
That's a good question.
What do you guys think, Edward?
Yeah. All right. So I think that we were created to worship God, and that looks a lot of different ways. Obviously, in its pure sense, in the church, but obviously our whole lives reflect that belief and those values. And so I think that that looks like not. So there's like my kids are in school, right? And there's all this talk about be kind, and it's frustrating to me because like there are times when like being kind might not be the right thing to do, right? Milo once said that like saying no is the most loving thing you can do in some situations, right? But our society, going back to to Black Friday, right? Our society is not designed or trained to or doesn't understand saying no to things, right? You just swipe the credit card. So I think that I think that our ultimately we will be fully satisfied in heaven, and that will be the ultimate low time preference when we're in heaven. But in the meantime, I think that having discipline having discipline and treating people the way that we want to be treated, including saying no and speaking hard truths into their lives are what we should be doing. I think Bitcoin does that. If I own something, you can't own it in the Bitcoin world. Like that is a reflection of that in the monetary system. We can't just print more money.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I like a lot of the parallels that Bitcoin has to the printing press, because what we saw was the Catholic Church become extremely powerful and corrupt. And I think this is the problem with any sort of centralization is like, the church had all this power, and yet I think it led people further away from their relationship with God. And I think we're seeing that, today with the state, essentially being a god in our society. There's not a lot of, it's like this assumption. I think back then, prior to information being dispersed and the Bible being translated into people's language, native languages, people assumed that, the church was the ultimate authority and that their priest was the ultimate authority. And today we think the bureaucrat or president or, whatever is the Dr. Fauci is,
I don't say that.
is like the ultimate authority. And it's because money and the state are married. And I think like ultimately, what the Bible being not everybody that listens to this podcast is religious, which is cool, but the Bible being translated into people's individual languages allows them to experience God for themselves rather than going through an intermediary. And Bitcoin being separated from the state allows them to experience freedom, freedom of choice, and liberty without, being granted to the state. And this idea that the state grants our rights is just such garbage that a lot of people, have never really thought about. It's like, hey, Mr. Senator, can you please not destroy my life and my family's life? Like, I'm going to call you and beg you for mercy, not to, like, it's like, no, like they have no right to be doing these things. And we can put up our middle fingers and we can have, some power in doing so as a result of this technology. And I think the similarities there are massive and are incredibly important. And thank God for Bitcoin's take on that. It's such a good book. They did good.
Like at the local level, I haven't dropped this. Well, I was talking to one of my council members, and I told him, right, our rights come from God. But I'm probably going to start repeating that on a regular basis at our city council meetings because they think that we serve at their pleasure and they're wrong. So
just to recognize and kind of help prosper it. And instead, it's turned into them as the authority, which is not the way a lot of us see it.
Yeah, they need to realize we're not their slaves.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
We need to let them know that.
Yeah. And even what you were saying, like when you said printer, I was thinking like money printer go burr, but like the relativity, right? Like the moral. There's another cherry-picked analogy. Is just making analogies, right? But like the monetary system and printing more money makes the money relative and versus like an absolute truth, right? There are absolute truths, and Bitcoin forces that.
Yeah, that's something American Hodl talks a lot about. And he's kind of an agnostic or atheist, which is really interesting how he kind of taps into this Judeo-Christian framework and argues against nihilism and moral relativism. Because I think that's incredibly important. Like that's just something we see here in our society, and it's like the epitome of that is GameStop and Dogecoin. People just like, I don't have a bright future, so I'm just going to YOLO into this garbage. Hopefully,
yeah, they have like the right idea, but just the execution of like the way they go about it is just a hair misguided, you know, and it was close.
It was a lot of fun though. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining to watch. It's going to be interesting to see if we have any more coordinated attacks against the establishment like that from a financial.
Yeah.
Sat squeeze, that's the real one. That's the real game stuff for sure.
What is it? Sat squeeze?
Yeah, sat squeeze.
Yeah, we're on a bit of a pump today.
Well, I feel like that was just again they have the right issue, but you're playing their game where like the hedge funds are just like they're not really getting stopped out. They're just like they like have all the data, they're YOLOing with you, and then they're also trading against you. And it's just you're playing their game, and that's where we really have the opportunity in this life and this time right now to really opt out, and that's what Bitcoin offers, and that's why I think we're all here. We're all about it.
I think Coinbase is buying on Bitcoin right now. They said they were going to.
12 coins.
I know they said they were buying more.
Yeah, I think Brian Armstrong's got a little bit of Bitcoin derangement syndrome. I don't think he's very vocal about being anti-Bitcoin, but I think ever since his attempt to launch Bitcoin XT and SegWit 2x, I think he was involved with SegWit 2x. But ever since then, and that failed, and the community really shut him down. I think he's gone off the deep end, kind of like Roger.
Yeah. If only Craig Wright would show us the way.
I had some guy on my Instagram comments. I was talking about Bitcoin. He's trying to tell me that BSV is like, oh my God, let me help you. Let me help you.
Yeah, I had somebody in my YouTube comments for the first time. I think that means that you're gaining some traction in the world when the BSV shells start coming out. I mean, where can you even buy BSV? It's such trash, like everybody delisted it.
We're excited to. I think the Bitcoin Day will be a forum to talk about all this stuff, right? Like, I mean, we're talking here. You're in Tucson, we're in KC/Nebraska, but I think that having the face-to-face talks are important. Being able to have group conversations in real person, I think that's important.
I feel like some of the real conversations I have are at the meetup. Whether I'm learning about history from France in the '60s or something, or like just the Bitcoin history. I feel like that's why we're here, to try to have the tough conversations and push things forward in a meaningful manner with friends, family, and community. I think that's one of the underlying goals for sure.
Yeah. The conferences are so helpful in fighting demoralization right now too. We're gonna win this.
Yes, sir. Stay winning.
Yeah, and I think the other like we kind of have three tracks, right? One is the more like the use cases. One is more kind of the philosophical and the kind of stuff we're talking about here, like what the industry is doing and ramping up wise in Bitcoin, and kind of more philosophical. But like the third track is that professional track of like trying to figure out how it interacts with all the traditional mainstream finance and all the other retail, that kind of thing. So I think those three that we haven't even touched on kind of that industry or that segment. And what does it mean? How do we take this? How do we take this mindset and apply it to our work if we're still in a regular job?
Yeah.
And I don't have any answers. I'm just saying that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
How do we convert the system from the inside, right? Like Fight Club.
Yeah. The reality is real. I mean, for people all over the place, like I worked in social work for like 7 years, and working with people in their 60s and 70s that had no retirement savings, and young people that had no savings and were just spending money on stupid things like motorcycles and trucks. People have a lot of power in whatever their sphere is, and what's that guy? Something Maxwell. Are you familiar with him? He's a leadership guy.
Yeah, I know you're talking. He wrote the book with the match on it. Yes, I know you're talking.
Yeah, it's like one thing that he talks about is like in that book is to really be a leader in whatever sphere you have. It doesn't mean that you have to have authority and like have a like a higher position. Like you don't need to be a manager or director to really have an influence on the people around you. You just have to be aware of your influence and use it well. And I think that's huge. We're gonna orange pill the masses.
Yes, sir. That's the goal. I think even like just getting people, I think helping people be aware that you don't have to overrely. You don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, right? Just buy some sats and just get a little taste, and hopefully you'll come back for more. But just have some, just to ride the wave and have your voice heard through that.
I mean, we were kind of talking about that earlier. I feel like one of the things, like some of my friends said, they think they have to buy a whole coin, or it's like all or nothing. Like, oh, it's either $5,000 or nothing, And so I'm trying to do a little just $21 once a week stack, and just try to get people on board with like, again, the DCA BTC.com, like $50 a day for the last like 4 or 5 years is like 250 grand or something. You only put like 20 grand down. And so, I think it's just, I don't know, I feel like at first I kind of thought, like when I'm talking to some other people, that the way in is, trying to explain these different concepts, but it kind of seems like it's more just orange pill. Like the orange pill, once, if they can get the hands on that and the small grasp of it and those little steps, then it kind of just affects everything else. I mean, I definitely can say for my family and people close to me, Bitcoin's kind of changed the way I kind of view the world and how we kind of go about it.
I don't know how much, dealing with how much of it, talking about the consumerism, how much of it is like, is it something inherent to just the way people think, or is it something like society has trained us on like that making a small purchase like that is futile, or whatever it is that stops from sort of thinking about like it's got to be a big thing or nothing, and that seems to be a faulty mindset. I don't know where that comes from.
Comes from the Fed. Like legitimately, like going and watching Ben Bernanke talk about how he wants to prevent people from having money under their mattress, and like talking about people like that with disdain. It's a very intentional process that is done. So like talking with a lot of people, what they're concerned about is what can it do for me now, and that mindset is kind of programmed into us. So it is a cultural phenomenon for sure. That's happening, but I think it directly is based on how they're adjusting monetary policy to get people into this mindset of consumerism.
Well, I mean, Australia is a direct result of the people being disarmed. What's going on right there now?
Yeah. Guns are good.
Super important.
I mean, I was thinking, I'm a gun nut. I love guns, and I was thinking last night it would be really nice to live in a world without guns, without nuclear weapons, like that. It would be that safe. But like most of the people that suggest to get rid of guns have this like innate trust for authority, which I think is incredibly dangerous. And it's the entire concept of like having something like that is entirely predicated on the authority being inherently good over time. And it's such a conflicting, like, logical fallacy that they present. It's like people are bad, so we need authority to manage them. But the people that they're saying are bad are the people in positions of authority. And it's mind blowing to me to just like have those types of conversations. So we need guns. Guns are good.
Communism will work next time.
Yeah, I mean, like we get like a lot of heat about communism, and our culture, which I think is really good because it's like one of the most destructive things out there. But what we're seeing today, with this cronyism is pretty bad too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's how that's a component of, right, like how when we lose, Lady Liberty, right, it's blind. So when we lose that objectivist or objectivity, then that kind of stuff happens where that cronyism and the things become based on people based rather than a document that was written a few hundred years ago.
Yeah, Max Kaiser was like hyping up the idea of guillotines at his event, which I don't think is the best.
Yeah, that didn't go so well on January 6th for a few people.
Yeah, that's exactly what they want, is for people to lash out like that. But we can just like completely unseat them by destroying the money printers.
Yeah,
it's so much more powerful. Like the way I see guns and the way I see Bitcoin is that it's an asymmetric defense against these people, these maniacs. And I think that's, the attitude that we need to have is like to be guerrillas, and it's like, you always see this. And I saw this in high school a lot where there was like the 18-year-old, tough, big bully that was always like, hit me first, and if you hit him first, he's gonna whoop you. And I think that's kind of like what the state's doing with us right now. They're like, come at me so we can throw you on the gulag. And it's like, no, the answer is to not hit you. The answer is to circumvent you. And yeah. But yeah, I'm stoked. What's got you guys hopeful in the future?
Bitcoiners for sure. I feel like I don't know. I was just kind of thinking about this. I feel like I kind of woke up about like 10 years ago or something and realized that the Fed and they're controlling us and the money printer, but kind of just got real upset. I feel like I go back on my Twitter. I was like ranting about it, about how they're just printing money, controlling us like 10 years ago, and didn't really have an outlet. And then I kind of knew that the money was the issue, and there's really just no solution. And then kind of like learning about Bitcoin, and it just kind of like falls back in place and like connects everything that like it's so simple and corny, but like literally fix the money, fix the world. Like it really comes down to that. So again, the day to day can seem kind of just going about it, but I think over the long term, if we just keep pushing at this thing, I think there can really be some meaningful change, and that's just that's what I'm trying to do in my life. Just be about those things and help foster good relationships with people that are about the mission. We just want quality people that are on board with the mission, and I think that Bitcoin's a great way to start with that.
Bitcoin
here in the heartland.
We that's gonna be a T-shirt. Probably won't be till next year, but hopefully I have a T-shirt for Bitcoin and at Bitcoin Day Omaha 2022. For me, probably just I like the we were reading Casey Hoddle is helping us out here and tweeted out something about kind of the community being reliable and people you can trust. And for me, like he was saying, going to our meetups in Omaha and talking about 16th century French history.
It matters.
It's I appreciate it more, the community, and like being able to. I think that homogeny is important. Being around people that you trust and like and so I've appreciated that, whether it's at church or in the Bitcoin community or in my professional life, figuring out how to pick friends, I guess would be how I would summarize it.
Nice.
What about yourself?
I'm bullish on Bitcoin coming into the Midwest with a storm.
Let's go.
I mean, that corner of the country is awesome. Don't sleep on, what the morons call the flyover states.
Yeah, we plan on coming out your way too, though. Maybe next year. So maybe we come on here and tease it out again.
Yeah, Arizona's ready. We're growing really, really well, and the stuff we're doing out here is super exciting. We're getting to the point like where there's going to be. I mean, we're already at where there's an event pretty much every week happening around Arizona, and we're gonna conquer all the cities, get a meetup in every city, major city and region. It's, I mean, the ground is just so fertile, and the stuff that they're doing is just so insane. Like, they're going after cash, they're going after, people's savings, they're going after, everything, and we have such a big cash economy out here, and such a big immigrant population. Remittances is like the biggest no-brainer when it comes to Bitcoin, and then this cash economy is going to flow entirely into Bitcoin, is my prediction, because the CBDCs and the tax laws, like people are not going to comply with that. It's just insane. There's going to be this massive black market that is going to transition. I think it's super bullish because people want to be free. They don't want to be coerced and enslaved. So,
dude, I think right along those lines, like, I think it's only 12 years old, but with 30 years of the cypherpunk history behind it, I think we're in hyper Bitcoinization right now. Like, everyone has a different term for that. I think we're in it. I think we're going through it. This is the growth of what it's going to look like, when we look back. Yeah, that's just makes me super bullish. So.
Yeah, we're gonna get rolling. They have no idea what's coming for them. So yeah, where can people follow you and learn about Bitcoin Day Omaha?
So BitcoinDayOmaha.com, and we'll be rebranding that to include the other cities that are coming. And so for now, Bitcoin Day Omaha, you can buy your tickets there. On Twitter, Bitcoin Day Omaha, and Instagram is Bitcoin Day Omaha.
Use code Freedom21 for the discount.
There we go. Yeah, Freedom21 get you that's the discount we have out right now. So yeah. And then if you're in Kansas City, Bitcoin Day was September 10th, and then Bitcoin Day Kansas City is November 6th at Union Station. And we'll be announcing more about that soon.
Dope. Kansas City, are you guys going to get Tech9 to come?
We should. We're trying to get, so we need a big performance. Tech9 would be coming in real nice. The Paris of the Plains, baby. Tech9, show up.
He's the only person I know from Kansas City. So
I've been to a couple concerts. He throws a pretty crazy event. So maybe he's a Bitcoiner. We'll have to show him on
that. Yeah.
I heard he was illiterate for like his first few albums, and so he had every lyric memorized. I don't know if that's true. Right? If that's true, that's just phenomenal. But
makes it better.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's also when Wisconsin was announced in Omaha, I think it was.
It was pretty wild.
I can't say I've ever. Not really my scene, but yeah. Well, cool. Really, really good having you guys on. Thanks.
Thanks for having us. It was great.
We appreciate it. Look forward to having you come to Omaha and getting some more Bitcoiners together. So we appreciate what you're doing, and especially out there in Tucson. I know you're really kind of help fostering the scene, man. That's what it's all about. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna win this.
Let's go. Stay winning.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, one last thing. It's happening regardless of what we're doing. But I think the way I see it is we can probably get some people on the life raft a little bit quicker doing this stuff.
Yeah, That's the goal.
Yes, sir. Board the arc. Let's go.
Board the arc. That was a good time with Ben and Edward from Alpha BTC, who are putting on the Bitcoin Day Omaha conference. And yeah, I'm just stoked about this. This is something that I'm very passionate about, is getting Bitcoin to people in their local communities. I think, the aspect of just buying Bitcoin is cool and all as a, investment or, financial asset, but I think really using Bitcoin to its fullest potential to, get around censorship, to get around, just these evil people that are pulling the strings and think that, we're just here to be managed and controlled at their will, is what makes Bitcoin a really powerful thing. And it starts in the local community. I think Bitcoin is different, when you look at politics, when you look at, a lot of the structures that we see today, a lot of it is a top-down approach. And I think Bitcoin is a bottom-up approach. We are changing things not by, edict and mandates. We're changing things by choice and education and working with people and opting out of this stupid system, which is fiat money. But yeah, great conversation. Meetup scene, I'm super stoked about some of the stuff going on. Isaiah Jackson is coming out to Phoenix on the 31st, which is a Tuesday. So I guess the day after this podcast drops. And I'm super stoked about that. I had him on the podcast a while back, and I'm excited to meet him in person, and talk about his book. I think his book, Bitcoin in Black America, is, really helpful and informative. And I'm just, excited that he's, coming out and supporting our local Bitcoin scene here in Arizona. But we're rolling. We're creating a movement. We're done with this nonsense. And it's exciting to see that people are, growing and educating themselves, and I feel super bullish and encouraged about that. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this conversation, and have a good one.